We were excited to hear about our next guest being able to come on with us because you're familiar when she was on the radio with us on a regular basis, and then of course you watched her on the Five and also on Outnumbered on Fox TV. And now though, with the book out and busy with the tour promoting her new book, Andrea Tantaros, Tied Up in Knots: How Getting What We Wanted Made Women Miserable. Andrea, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
It's great to have you on here too, because we loved it when you were on the air with us, and it was we felt like you were really hitting your stride when that didn't happen any longer. We were upset by
I know. I know. Here we are again, though, reunited, and as the song goes, it feels so good this Tuesday morning.
That's right. Andrea, tell me a little bit about this book. What propelled you to write Tied Up in Knots?
Well, after a couple decades of following feminist doctrine and arguably being one of the first beneficiaries of feminism, it was me and my friends who were basically the daughters of Betty Friedan, right? Our moms wanted more for us, and they pushed for us to have these opportunities. Mm-hmm. And truthfully, society followed suit. And feminists have done such a great thing by pushing for equal rights with women, and I tip my hat to them. This is not a book to tear them down and go after them. It's just a book at what they've done and an honest look at what they've done in this book and how it's affecting every single woman. So, for example, when they rightfully pushed for equal rights, they pushed for equal rights, but they did it at the expense of men. They wanted to elevate women, and that's great, but they did it at the expense of men. So they told me and my generation, brainwashed us that we didn't need men and that we needed to adopt the traits of men, their careers, their love lives, the way that they date, the way that they work, the way that they negotiate. The problem is we aren't men. Women aren't men. There are strict gender differences and biological wiring that is undeniable. And somehow equality just confused the fact that equal doesn't mean the same. And it's led to a lot of confusion and depression, and I would say misery among the sexes that have never been in a worse state.
But I think you've also outlined our challenge with what we call civil rights across the board now, because you go back to Martin Luther King's words, and you understand that civil rights to elevate somebody was not to denigrate someone else.
Right.
And we're seeing that argument now in all kinds of phases, though. Yet I think in your book, you kind of represent, maybe a push that, you might call feminism 2.0, or as Mandy over here, as at, how old are you, 27?
Yeah, 20, yeah. I think 27. Yes. Yeah. I forget sometimes.
Call her the feminist concealed carry.
Mm-hmm.
She really represents, and the what ought to be, the forefront of the next wave of feminism.
Right. Well, and I think our generation, we have so many choices, right? So we can carry a gun. Well, not me, unfortunately, in New York City, but we can carry a gun, we can not carry a gun. Yeah. We can wait to have kids. We can choose marriage. We can not choose marriage. But the bottom line is women have been, and again, brainwashed at least, that they can do so much. So one, we've got all these opportunities and choices. We can really have anything we want. Some of us would love to strangle Gloria Steinem. We're so stressed out. No more choices. We're over-choiced out. But we also have to look at what's happening with generations even younger than Mandy and myself. The teens that are logging on to Tinder, that are sexting, that don't even know what a proper date is. All of this, and this is what I outlined in the book, in real life examples with real research, qualitative research. I mean, this took me 2 years to write this book. Mm-hmm. Why? Because there's so much material out there, and there's so many human interviews that you have to do with men and women to figure out, okay, feminism has been great. For example, there's been a rise of female breadwinners. That means women making more than their husband. Typically in society, we'll read that article and then we'll shuffle along. You'll hear me talk about it on Fox, and then we move along during our day. What I want to do is look and say, okay, if more women are now making more than their husbands, how is this affecting their relationship? How does this affect the family? How does this affect the kids? Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it causing problems? And that's what I get into in the book because, again, so many great things that women have careers, but there's also double the work because women aren't giving up their responsibilities in the home. The men aren't just dropping out of the workforce and women are signing up. It's not going like that. Men are typically retaining their jobs and women are going out there and kicking butt, and it's awesome. but there's also consequences, and no one wants to talk about them. No one wants to talk about Ashley Madison and why that hack of that cheating website was predominantly men who, when interviewed, said, when I cheated, I didn't do it because, I was enticed by someone else. I did it because I wasn't getting enough attention at home. My wife is busy working. So I don't make judgments in the book, and I don't. I just report the facts and talk about the consequences.
Yeah, this has actually been theorized for some time that this is where we were headed with the brand of feminism, as you mentioned before, instead of the idea of a more egalitarian look at how do we lift all boats, not sink some.
That's absolutely true. No, that is absolutely true. It was like women were saying, okay, good for our boats, and we're getting out there on the high seas, and then we're stabbing holes in the man's boat, so the men are sinking to the bottom of the ship, the floor, the ship's sinking. That's not the way that it was supposed to be.
That's right.
And I remember that whole push when I was growing up, that you don't need a man push, and that came from sort of the tear down the patriarchy portion of the feminist. That was the Gloria Steinem portion, where she said, let's rip down the walls, let's tear down the patriarchy, and you don't need a man. And so you have women like me. I was also talking to Jenny McCarthy on her radio show. Same thing. We were told we didn't need men, and so we tried to do everything ourselves. I got the door myself. You don't need to pay the check. I mean, men have told me they're scared to step up and do things for women because, they were told they weren't needed. And to your earlier point, like with civil rights, if you keep telling a gender or a demographic or a race or an ethnicity that they're not needed, they eventually start to believe it.
Yep, that's right.
And that's what we're seeing with men just pulling away and saying, okay, listen, if you're going to tell us that you don't need us and we can't do what we do, as Steve Harvey likes to say, we do what we do. We want to protect, we want to provide. Let us, ladies, show us where we fit in. If you're not going to let men do that, then men are going to choose their own path, and they have. And that's why there's a rise of pornography. There's a rise of, like I mentioned, dating apps like Tinder, where women have taken monogamy off the hook. Because remember, that was the other side of the coin of feminism. It wasn't just tear down the patriarchy. It was navigate the patriarchy by using your sexuality and have sex like a man, date like a man. But women aren't wired that way. So now you have women putting it all out there. And one study showed very, very disturbingly that women feel now that if they don't give up the milk, let's say on the first, second, or third date, the man will dump them and he will move on. And I just thought how horrible that is, that women now are out of fear, can't really say what they want, and so they're not being authentic with themselves, and perhaps they're compromising their beliefs because they'll just move on to the next one.
We've created an entire social, not only our on-screen, on computer screen social network, but all of our media is aligned that way. That hooking up is what you do. In fact, I was talking about it in contrast. I was actually watching this Korean TV drama where there was obviously a love interest. It took 14 episodes before they kissed. And
so weird.
And in the United States, the clothes would be coming off by the end of the second commercial break. So of the first episode.
Or it would take 14 texts for her to come over.
Yeah.
And they don't even know each other's name, and then she leaves, and somehow feminists go, isn't that great? Don't you feel empowered, ladies?
Yeah, right.
And she's like, no, because he didn't call me back, and I just saw that he's still on Tinder, and he was out with another girl the next night. So I think that's not exactly what women really wanted, and it's making us miserable.
Again,
not me, or not Mandy, but everyone else.
Tied up in knots, Andrea Tantaros, how getting what we wanted made women miserable. Andrea, as always, it's good to talk with you, and good luck with this, and wish we had a lot more time, because I'd like to talk more politics, too. But
I'll come back anytime.
All right,
you invite
thanks
me
so much.
anytime, and I'll come back.
All
Thank you.
This is Coastal Daybreak on the Talk Station.